Hello everyone, this is Remleiz from 40k Theories, and welcome to this newest episode of Adeptus Podcastus. Joining me as always is... No, not here right now because they have a doctor's appointment, but they'll be joining the show later. So, until Tactica Imperialis arrives, joining me this week as my very special guest is someone who should be no stranger to those of you who follow professional wrestling, as our guest is a former multiple-time world champion across various different promotions. And for those of you who don't follow wrestling, you may recognise his dulcet tones from a variety of voice acting roles, from properties ranging from Transformers to Game of Thrones to DC Comics. Ladies and gentlemen, my guest at this time is none other than the Samoan submission machine, Samoa Joe.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you for agreeing to be on.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, an off message, but I said, yeah, why not? Let's give it a shot.
Exactly. I'll be honest, you're kind of like a dream guest for us at this time. Ever since we started this, like, we found out you're into Warhammer. It's like, oh, we want to get Samoa Joe on at some point. And here you are.
Well, yeah, like I said, it's good to be here. Like I was saying earlier, like it's a rare opportunity. I get this to kind of wax philosophic about Warhammer. So it's I jump at whatever rare chance that I do get.
I can imagine. So before we get into the news, might as well ask a couple of quick questions. How did you get into Warhammer?
Kind of just by happenstance. I think I saw an early White Dwarf like book at the back of a comic shop once, and kind of flipped through it, and I think it just a lot of the art style was very like gritty and kind of like cyberpunkish Franzetti. I mean, just it was cool looking, and then as I kind of garnered a small knowledge of it, like in bits and pieces here and there. I think when I started traveling a lot full time, my capacity to read went up greatly just sitting on flights, especially coming from the West Coast. Most of my work at the time being on the East Coast, it was like a 4 hour flight. So, you got to occupy your time some way. And that's right around when the Black Library app kind of came out. And I remember spending a ton of money on books and starting kind of the journey into the Warhammer lore there. And then promptly, I think the app got discontinued, and I lost the whole library, and was really, really pissed about it. But it just kind of started from. I mean, really, really, really started from there as I was traveling on the road, and then picked up a little bit of painting here and there. Never really could fit it in because just not being at home at much, and when I am, I usually am kind of focused on the loved ones, and trying to balance real life with road life. So. Did a little bit of painting, played a little bit here and there with some friends that I happened to run into back in California who were really, really big into it and lent me a lot of their armies. But it just kind of was something that I always had going on kind of in the background. And, I really didn't realize how many other people were into it until I started traveling around and would mention it. And I'd be in the funniest places and they'd be like, oh, yeah, Warhammer. I love Warhammer. And they started going crazy about it, too.
So has this ever led to any situations where, like, in any of the locker rooms you've been into, like, you and the guys ever bring, like, any small armies to, like, play, between matches or anything like that?
No, so it's not that big. Like, I know, like, other, like, Shayna is pretty into it. I think there's people that have kind of working knowledges of the universe. But, honestly, there's enough packed into our bags. I think any models that would find their way in our bag would be quickly destroyed and dismantled just in the hustle and bustle of travel. But you never know. I've seen guys come through with bigger and more extravagant things. I mean, Xavier and Point, I one time had like a whole traveling VR system. Really? Yeah, it's not in the realm of impossibility, but not a large enough player base for it to really go down.
Fair enough. So, you mentioned about painting. What armies were you painting at the time, or painting now in regards?
I honestly started with like just small squads of Space Marines, and playing around. I think by default, the first one you end up doing like a default Ultramarines paint scheme just to kind of test it out, and then from there, like just tried a couple just of my own little schemes here, and they're buried somewhere back in the closet, and I definitely know I have an Assault on Blackreach unpainted kit just sitting up there as my little unpainted shame. But just mainly that. Just when I would get a free couple weekends, I'd get in there and start painting and just trying to actually learn the craft in and of itself.
Yeah, I think we've all been there in regards to the starting off with the Ultramarine, at least once at the very least.
Yeah.
And also, just one other thing I just want to quickly bring up: the incident where you put Gav Thorpe in a headlock at Warhammer World.
Yeah, I've had the opportunity to hang out and speak with a lot of the writers of the Ben Counter in particular, Gav, obviously. And Gav invited me out to Warhammer World. I think we were near Nottingham, and it was great. It was a great time, man. It was a fun little thing. Got to go down there, check out all the dioramas, which are crazy and insane and cool and stuff. And we had a good time down there. It was really interesting to kind of see the operation up close, because like when you go there, you realize like everybody who works at that joint is like really into Warhammer. Like there's no part-timers there. So it's just a really, really cool environment. It's cool to kind of see everything up close.
Awesome. Right, so in the news this week, they've revealed the second half of the Kill Team Nachmund box set. We've already seen the Eldari Corsairs, but now we get to see their opponents in the Chaos Space Marines. And these new Chaos Space Marines sculpts, I'll just post some pictures of them in the chat for you. These are looking very nice indeed, I have to say. I particularly like the Balefire Cultist, or Balefire Acolyte, sorry, the one with the book tied to his backpack. He looks very cool. I think he make a very good proxy for a Chaos Space Marine Sorcerer or a Dark Apostle if you're collecting a Chaos Space Marine army.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, all these are incredible. Well, here's my thing. Like, if you're doing a new Chaos Space Marine army, like, I don't know, a lot. I don't know. I'd kit bash the hell out of all of this. Like, yeah. I mean, these are really, really sick. It's good to see Chaos Space Marines actually getting some love. I mean, it seems like it's been Space Marine after Space Marine going out there, but now kind of seeing these definitely more detailed and awesome looking skulls. Yeah, I mean, yeah, these are all really dope. I mean, I don't know what more could be said about them. I love the Gatling chain gun. I mean, that Gatling heavy bolter. I mean, that's ridiculous.
Oh, the Reaper chain cannon. Yeah.
Yeah. Is that a chain cannon?
Yeah, Reaper chain cannon. Yeah.
Reaper chain cannon. Oof. Yeah, I mean, it's cool because it still kind of keeps that older aesthetic, which you would want with the Chaos Space Marines, and yeah, they didn't go full bore like trying to adapt them up to look like Primaris, which is something I worry about sometimes.
I take it you're not a fan of Primaris Marines, then?
No, I do like them. I just don't want to see Chaos Primaris Marines.
That's totally fair. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it kind of ruins the. I mean, you can always explain it away in the lore and stuff, but I think, if you're gonna beef up Chaos Space Marines, then just beef them up with Chaos. Why give them a new whole genetic construct or whatever? Although we do know there's going to be a Renegade Primaris at some point.
I know we were teased in regards to that with the Brazen Drakes.
Yes, or at least like. Renegade, I think we're definitely going to go down that route, but
I mean, with Fabius Bow, anything's possible.
Yeah, it really is at this point. I mean, every time you think you got things figured out, they manage to find some way to explain it into some other realm of possibility.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. But yeah, the Chaos Space Marines got a nice selection. You got the dude with the massive double-handed chain axe, who could make a very good Khorne Berserker champion. You got the guy who looks like he's starting to become possessed with the mouth in his hand.
Ooh,
I'm just reminded of that one South Park joke, with the Jennifer Lopez and Cartman. Don't know why.
That's a good. Yeah, I can see that working. I can see that happening.
But for me, the standout model is definitely the Balefire Acolyte. Definitely, it gives off a very Erebusy vibe.
Listen, anything that has a book on it in Warhammer usually is pretty badass, but it's just some weird kind of default characteristic. Like if somebody's strolling into combat with an open book, like strapped to his pauldron, I don't know, his forehead, whatever, you just know that it's a really, really dedicated son of a bitch,
Oh, absolutely. In other news, the newest rumor engine is teasing something possibly chaosy, possibly Niddish, with a nice big wing of something. So
see, that's ridiculous. Like that, this is a silly tease. Like, I can name about 15 different things that probably have this same wing. You know, and over like 3 or 4, like, you know, like, I mean, yeah, I mean, see here, like, this is what I don't appreciate about the rumor engine is that they never show you like a component that really is kind of intriguing. You know what I mean? Like, if you saw like a demon leg sticking out of a half of a towel drone, you'd be like, wait a minute, that's, you know, it's always like generic demon foot. Oh, look at this mechanical leg. Look at this half a knee joint. Like,
I'm trying to think back to like a weird one that was kind of like intriguing. I think I can think of was the statue, like the statue of support that was holding something up. It ended up being that Age of Sigmar big Slanesh diorama special character. You know, the fat guy in his massive chariot.
Yeah.
Yeah, hedonism bought by in human form.
I'm just saying the rumor engine guy. You know, you're little one note at this point. You know, like, it's just display a prominent body part.
Personally, I'm hoping it's Nid Shrikes, but I have seen some people say it could be a new Valkyrie the Bloody, which could be cool.
It feels more Nid though. I mean, as you look at kind of the spines and the articulation, like near the joints and stuff. But the tattered wings always kind of brings, I don't know, always kind of brings chaos into the equation. You know, like very few things fly well with tattered wings unless they got some magic involved.
True. In other news, the next book in the Horus Heresy Primarch series has been revealed, and it is Mortarion this time round. Mortarion the Pale King by David Annandale. Now, I'm interested to see where they could take this, because we know it's not going to be his past, because that was detailed in the Buried Dagger novel, and that also saw his ascension to demonhood, so it'd be interesting to see where exactly this takes place in regards to it. All we know is that it takes place before he became a demon Primarch, so...
Nah, I think I've read the good majority of the Primarch books, but I think if this comes out, I think it'll hop around. I think it will kind of go into more detail of some incidents in the past, maybe try to, you know, expand on them, and I could see it kind of jumping forward through the Crusade in general, and you know, usually these books are about them kind of coming to a defining penultimate moment that defines their, you know, future going into the heresy. But yeah, I don't know, I just feel like that's kind of what they do in a lot of these books, is they end up you know, kind of serving both sides and jumping around from the past and the present and the Crusade.
That's true. To be honest, I'm just hoping it's good, because I know I'm not in the minority in this regard, because I found quite a lot of the Primarch series to be very underwhelming. I mean, don't get me wrong, there are some absolute gems in there, like the Lorgar and Angron books, for example, are absolutely fantastic. But then you've got some books that are just a bit forgettable, like Jagatai Khan's, for instance.
Which was disappointing.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a big Jagatai fan. You know, like, I've always liked how the Scars have been written. I've always liked how their offshoot chapters have been written. And yeah, I don't know. It wasn't bad by any. And I think that's the thing, is like, they're all enjoyable because it gives you more of a deeper insight into all of their motivations and who they are as Primarchs. But sometimes it feels like an exposition dump, and you know, you kind of want to get more into like what drives them, and you know, maybe some more of the cooler shit they did. You know.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I mean, one thing I really liked in regards to like the Lorgar book, for instance, like prior to reading that book, I did not like Lorgar as a character at all. I just found him to be utterly detestable. Mm-hmm. And then I read that book, and I was just like, I actually now like and feel sympathetic for this character, which is like, you know, a sign of how a book being written well. It's like, it's a character you don't like, and at the end of the book, you like them, kind of, or at least sympathize with them.
And I think a lot of it's because Lorgar's always been kind of considered a very one-note character, just, you know, religious fanatical zealot. And I think you know, when you start to layer up that character a little bit and explain some more of his motivations and stuff, it always becomes a bit more intriguing.
Oh, absolutely. And if nothing else, also showed that Cor Ferron is an absolute prick.
I don't know. Cor Ferron and Erebus, I don't know. I guess they're the two big dicks in the world. You know what I mean? Nobody really quite likes them.
In other news, sticking with books briefly, the Black Library Coming Soon page has been updated for the first time in a while as well. So with the upcoming releases for April, so for Age of Sigmar, we got the next book in the Gotrek series, Soul Slayer, which pits Gotrek against the Idoneth Deepkin. So Angry Fire Dwarf against Fish Elves. Should be interesting. For 40k, we have the special edition for Pariah, which, quite frankly, looks absolutely beautiful.
Is it like embossed or?
Pretty much, yeah.
Oh wow, yeah.
It's like the Penitent Limited Edition, which is the sequel book to this, funnily enough. Yeah, they did the special edition for the sequel first, before the first one. It's a bit weird, but yeah. If nothing else, it is an absolutely gorgeous book, if nothing else. Like I said, it looks like a tarot card, in a way. The standard edition of Pariah came out quite a while ago, I think. At least in hardback. I think it's coming out in paperback at some point soon, though. As well as that, we're getting the special edition for the next Dawn of Fire book, Throne of Light, which basically focuses around, Corferon, he's back, there we go. The Black Templars, Sisters of Silence, and against Corferon, so that could be an interesting one. And again, limited edition, looking absolutely beautiful, with nice engravings on the faux leather cover.
See, this I like the styling of this is like really cool. Like this looks like a very, like to quote Ron Burgundy, my many leather bound books. Like it's
yes.
This does look like it does smell of rich mahogany. I'm just saying, just by design alone, I think.
I take it you feel the same way about the Siege of Terror limited edition books.
Oh yeah, those look awesome too. Those do. Like this, let me say this Pariah special edition looks awesome, but I feel like at some point, even though it'll be way in the future, they'll have some awesome box set of this that'll all be like have this synchronous artwork and look really, really cool too. So it's like, it's almost, you want to get it for the collection, but then you kind of like, there might be something better coming down the line. Yeah.
I tell you, well, it's a shame you didn't go down to Warhammer World about a year or so ago, because they had the limited edition for Horus Rising, but done in the style of the Siege of Terror books.
Oh, wow.
I'll just say good luck getting hold of that, because I had to get a pair of YouTubers called Snipe and Whip. They got a copy from Warhammer World for me because they live close by. Mm-hmm. And it took them about 3 separate attempts to get this for me. So, big shout out to Snipe and Whip for that. I still thank you for that. But I'll say worth it though, because it's absolutely beautiful.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, and like I said, aesthetically, I mean, it just looks really, really fantastic. Like, looks nice and clean. Like, I love the artwork on the Pariah book, and I think they should keep doing this type of cover too. But when it comes down to it, like this kind of nice trimmed up leather crested type of styling of book is definitely my preferred, like collector. If I was going to buy a collector hardback, this is what I want.
And speaking of nice trimmed down collector hardbacks, the 20th anniversary edition of Soul Drinker has been revealed as well.
Ooh.
Which again has a very nice, simple, clean, crisp design. Makes it fit in really well with the other 20th anniversary books, which were 13th Legion, Space Wolf, First and Only, and Troll Slayer, I believe.
Yeah, I can't wait to extort this from Ben personally. Like, really, this is an awesome looking book. Oh, man. Yeah, I'm going to hardcore guilt press on this one, Man, that's awesome.
Ben.
Yeah. And like, Soul Drinkers really, like, everybody says, like, Eisenhorn's a great entry point into the Warhammer world, like, and Ravner and all those books, which they are. The Gaunt's Ghost series, great entry point into the Warhammer world. But I think the Soul Drinker is another one of the ones that, like, kind of really explains the strife in the galaxy and kind of is a good introduction and a lot of good action. I think Ben's probably one of my favorite guys as far as like writing demons and like demons fighting in that war and stuff. He's definitely one of my favorite guys when it comes to that.
I'd say like Soul Drink is a very underrated entry point. Yeah, I will agree, because it is a nice ongoing in-depth series as well, and it doesn't overwhelm new readers, I feel, as well.
No, not at all. And I think
it's just the right balance, isn't it? So,
and it has it kind of introduces the fanaticism of the world in certain aspects, and how it kind of works against the Imperium and how it works for the Imperium in both aspects. I think for me, it explained a lot of the characteristics of the universe very clearly, very overtly, and it felt, very grimdark in what it was doing. So, like I always tell people, if you really want to go straight for the action and get in some, gritty stuff, I mean, I recommend Soul Drinkers a lot.
I take it you've read the Soul Drinker novella with the new iteration of the Soul Drinkers chapter when they were rebuilt as a Primaris chapter.
I've heard of it. I have not read it yet.
It's actually a pretty good novella. It kind of ends up, without spoiling anything, the entire story ends with, like, effectively, shit, here we go again kind of thing. It's the Soul Drinkers are pissed off the Inquisition again.
Yeah, how'd that happen? Yeah. No, I mean, a spider-legged chapter master has always kind of been a cool visual, so yeah, hopefully at some point somebody will spring out some spider legs, we'll see.
And in addition to the Soul Drink Anniversary book, coming up this month, in fact, is the next batch of the Horus Heresy print-on-demand series. So if you missed any of the following hardback books from your Horus Heresy collection, Master of Mankind, Garrow, Shattered Legions, Crimson King, or Talon, you can get them, I assume this coming weekend, in fact. So by the time this episode goes live, you should be able to order it with luck. Aside from that, we also have a release date for the Sigismund novel, because the limited edition came out last week, or it was available in pre-order the week before, but the standard hardback release comes out in April. So for those who missed the limited edition, you can get the standard edition in April, which should be interesting because this sold out incredibly quickly, like within about 3 minutes on the Black Library on the Games Workshop website, which I guess just goes to show how popular Sigismund is as a character.
Yeah, I think they missed an opportunity here. They should have just put "pissed" on the cover, just Sigismund pissed. Look at this pose. Look at this walking up pose he's got on the front of this thing. Like this is begging for like a badass guitar rock 80s soundtrack, an explosion in the background. Like Sigismund pissed.
Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah, oh yeah. Her T2 music would be perfect right here.
Sigismund the Terminator. Yeah, he could work.
Oh, I mean, people dig him because he's just an avatar of anger. Just mad all the time. He wakes up, he knows that there's chaos out there, and it just pisses him off, man. Like,
it's like chaos shit in his cereal, and he's out for revenge.
Oh yeah, chaos shit in every bowl of cereal he ate as a youth. A lot of people don't know that about Sigismund. Very, very back in the Hive world, a little chaos team would come out shit in his cereal every morning. Oh, it was the worst.
It explains so much. Yeah. I mean, Games Workshop, little inside baseball there. Old Game Workshop gave me the tip. They said poor Sigismund, growing up as a youth, had his cereal shit in by a Tzeentch demon. So it's different kind of shit every day. It was never any kind of he never got used to the shit. It always had a different messed up flavor. Pink and blue.
Yeah. Every morning, different shit on the top of his cornflakes, and that'll turn a man different.
Okay, I just want to say, for those of you who do the animatics, there's your animatics script for the week. In non-40k news, we have some more news from Warhammer The Old World. We actually got a map of Grand Cathay for the first time. So, yeah, I guess to coincide with the release of Total Warhammer 3, which I think just come out?
Yes, which I have been playing, and is another great, excellent entry into the franchise. But yeah, Cathay, I have a working knowledge of Warhammer Fantasy, and Cathay I had no knowledge of, so I started them in the campaign, and a very interesting faction, very the airships are amazing. That's all I gotta say. If you need artillery, they go hard.
In regards to the background, I know they were mentioned very sparingly. At least back when I played Warhammer Fantasy, I think the only real mentions, from off the top of my head, was in regards to the Skaven with Clan Eshin, because they had Clan Eshin's assassins were trained in both Cathay and Nippon, which were basically Warhammer Fantasy equivalent of China and Japan's, because Eshin are being ninjas. So it was always a faction that we didn't really know too much about. It was always there, but this is like the first time we actually been given a chance to actually delve into it, which is, it's pretty cool the fact that we have, are able to delve into a faction from a world that was effectively killed off, about 5 years or so ago.
So has there ever been like a proper representation of them in the game, like on the board?
Not for Warhammer Fantasy, off the top of my head. I think there was one for what was it called? There was like a Warhammer Fantasy equivalent of the Epic game system. I think it was called like War Master.
Mm-hmm.
I think they had an army there. I know Araby did. I think Cathay did as well, or at least had some units. But I think that's the closest we actually got to tabletop. I don't think there was actually anything for the actual Warhammer Fantasy game itself. If anyone knows, please leave a comment down below to correct me here, because I'll admit my fantasy knowledge is not the best. I'll happily throw my hands up in the air about that.
Yeah, preaching to the choir on that one. No, I will say this in Total War. I mean, it's an awesome faction. I mean, like every unit they have is begging to be made into a model. Like, so I mean, it's a great way to reintroduce it if they are planning to do a Cathay launch.
Yeah, I mean, I've been wanting to play the Total War games, but my laptop will not run it at all. I mean, it can barely run a Dawn of War.
Yeah, yeah, they can get taxing. It's a lot of pixels on the screen at once sometimes.
Oh yeah. In other news, we also had some. They tested out the new avatar of Khaine against a variety of opponents to see how it did, just to show how powerful it actually is. So they pitted it against, a Redemptor Dreadnought, the Primaris Dreadnought, and it beat the crap out of it. The ending tagline was literally, avatars don't look at explosions. They pitted it against Marneus Calgar, and again, the avatar beat the ever-loving crap out of it.
A Calgar.
Out of Calgar, yeah.
Okay, alright.
The Keeper of Secrets, it was a relatively close fight, but the avatar won out, which is surprising, because normally, let's be honest, the avatar normally just jobs out to everyone. It's an unfortunate truth, but the fact that his tabletop model is actually doing this well is actually a pleasant surprise. Against all the Chaos Space Marines from the Eldritch Omens box set, and the avatar beat the living crap out of them. A Baneblade.
By the way, this accompanying picture to this Baneblade is great.
And the fact that he just about beat out the Baneblade and only lost by being beaten by Mortarion the Demon Primarch. So, all in all, it's a pretty good showing of how powerful an Avatar of Khaine actually is in-game. I'm pleasantly surprised.
Well, I mean, I think they've been wanting to beef up Khaine in general for a long time. Obviously it's a reoccurring theme when it comes to Eldar. So, I don't know. I guess it's appropriate, right? He should be he's a god, well, an avatar of one at least.
And considering, like, in lore, he's like, beaten up by everyone. It's nice to see that he can actually fight back. Definitely.
Well, maybe they're just. I mean, it makes you wonder what's coming down the pipe to kick his ass. Like what wondrous Tau battlesuit is going to come out of the ether.
If only the Tau codex hadn't just been released, we might have just got a new one. But hey. And at the time of this episode going live, the new Eldari codex should actually be available for order now, which, as we have mentioned previously, combines rules for both I shouldn't say both because that's a grammatical error, but it combines rules for Craftful Elders, Harlequins, and Inari as well, I believe. Yes, Inari as well, yeah.
Wow. So for me, who's not super up on the latest codex and what's going on, I mean, as far as trends go, I mean, what are people playing and what are they finding success with?
Off the top of my head, I couldn't tell you.
No major metas popping up in the community everybody's pissed about, or
I'll be honest, I've not been keeping up with the tournament scene, so I couldn't tell you. I know Tactica will probably know a bit better than me in this regard because they have more tabletop experience than I do. Most of my tabletop experience is all the way back in the older rule editions, I'm afraid.
The last time I played, like I said, I think it was 3. So, I mean...
yeah. I think the last game I played was 7th edition was the last game I played, yeah. Before then, it was like 4th. So, the rules are drastically different now. I have to.
I've noticed. I think I kind of did. I was doing a quick little brush up, just trying to see, like, take a look, and I was like, wow, a lot has changed.
Yeah. I've heard mixed things about 9th edition. Some saying it's a nice balance of nice improvement over 8th. Some people they say they prefer 8th, and some people still prefer 7th, even though 7th admittedly was a bloated mess.
Mm-hmm.
But play whichever system you feel comfortable with. That's what I feel. Unless you're playing Horus Heresy, then you start playing 7th edition. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
And speaking of Horus Heresy, the models for what bloody their name's called, Fafnir Ran and Dominion Zephan were released as well, within their nice new fancy packaging. You still got to admit, like these guys, they look absolutely stunning. Even though Dominion Zephan's his model doesn't actually fit how he was actually described in the books. Because from what I can recall, he was actually in Sanguinary Guard armor at this time, not standard Legionary armor. So,
here comes a retcon. No. Yeah, but he looks badass. I mean, it's almost forgivable. Like I like the pose. I think the unhelmet is the way to go. I mean, it's a cool looking model.
And I don't know how the hell I missed this, but apparently, if you missed Blackstone Fortress, it's been made available again for a short period of time, which is a huge bonus. I didn't even know about this.
Which means by the time you hear about this, it'll be gone.
I'm going to check on stuff if it actually is available.
Yeah.
No, it's still available. At the time of recording, it's still available.
Wow.
£95 for the box set. I'm trying to remember how much it was originally. I think it's... Because it was released back in 2018, the price back then was, I think, $80? So £15 increase in about 4 years. It's not too bad inflation-wise, I have to say. But yeah, so if you missed Blackstone Fortress the first time round, you now have a chance to get it again, and I recommend it because it's absolutely fun.
So as far as like comparative games, what is comparative anything like Space Hulk or...
It is closer to Space Hulk than it would be anything like Kill Team or basic 40k. It's much closer to Space Hulk because it's basically it's a board game essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I think it also has like effectively a single player mode as well.
Okay.
So if you get bored one day, you can just play it by yourself and you make a little narrative campaign for yourself, kind of thing. Or you can just get a couple of friends together, just explore the Blackstone Fortress. And I highly recommend the novels as well, or at the very least the first one, because I haven't read the second one. But the first one, absolutely incredible novel, and I will admit, kind of batshit insane at times.
Really?
Because it's very, very different compared to most 40k stuff, because the setting of the Blackstone Fortress itself, it's very unlike any other particular faction. Like, it's not Eldari, it's not Orc, it's not Chaos, it's something completely different. It's like, the best way to describe it is like if David Lynch did 40k. To give you an idea of the weirdness.
Yeah, that kind of sets a pretty clear picture in my head. Yeah. The whole Blackstone Fortress thing, it's interesting. So is it I think I've seen the series. Is it an Inquisitor series or is it just...
It basically follows a group of adventurers. In a novel series, you're following a rogue trader and a couple of beings under his employ and a couple of allies he makes along the way. So it's in the first novel, it's a rogue trader, members of his entourage, a navigator, a Kroot. I'm trying to remember who else is in the novel. But there's like a Ministorum priest and a acolyte who's like a redemptionist type of character with like the eviscerator chainsaw with the attached flamer. Because, as you do, you might as well, cook while you cut.
Yeah. It's you want to cauterize the wound, give the guy a chance.
Exactly. And there are characters who've got their own short stories. Like, you got the Twin Ratlings and the Man of Iron as well.
This is turning into an ensemble cast. How do I...
It is an ensemble cast as well.
This is like the hodgepodge of every, like, unmentioned... Xeno species in the world all brought together it's like Ocean's 11.
Pretty much. Because I'll just show you if I can get a picture of the actual characters together. So the characters from the box set, you got the Man of Iron, you got the Navigator, the Ministorum Priest, and the Acolyte, the Kroot, the Twin Rattlings, the Eldari Ranger, and the Rogue Trader.
Oh yeah, okay. So yeah, I did read the Man of Iron short story, so I know. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Wow, that's a cool little warband there. Yeah, rattling snipers don't get enough credit, you know.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, Rattlings are very underappreciated. Everyone always likes the Ogrins because of how big and dumb the Ogrins are, but no one talks about how cunning and shrewd the Rattlings are.
Yeah, small and smart. What's wrong with that? Big and dumb, it just ain't it.
Absolutely. And joining us lately into the show, back from their appointment, is Tactica Imperialis. Welcome, Tac.
Hello, sorry I'm late. I got a doctor's appointment and I didn't dare move it because I knew I wouldn't get another one. So, hi, I'm late. Sorry. Yes, I'll catch up on what's been said. So don't worry, you don't need to fill me in.
Okay, don't worry, we weren't planning on it.
More than fair. More than fair. I mean, I can scroll up the pictures that Rem's been posting to you two, so I have a rough idea of what's been going on.
No worries, but yeah, I can totally understand about the doctor's appointment. Like at this point, those are precious commodities these days,
Yeah, just a little. But yes, otherwise doing fine, and don't let me stop you. You were on a very good conversation there.
Oh, now you're here. Maybe you can address a question that Joe asked earlier. Do you know in regards to anything in the tabletop, like which armies are doing best and stuff like that currently? Or armies that everyone's complaining about?
Well, according to MetaWatch, which is the best I've got to go on because I haven't played enough to know, on the Sigmar side it appears to be Nurgle. I may jump in on that article in a bit. On the 40k side, I'm not entirely sure. As far as I'm aware, it's still the same stuff, which is things like Drakari is still good, Mechanicus are still good, Orcs have been good, though I don't know how good they were after their buggies got nerfed. I think the top of the meta is still roughly Drakari Mechanicus, though I don't really keep track on tournament tops as much as I probably should.
So we definitely have to ask him about his thoughts on this Avatar of Khaine ass whipping of everything on the table.
Oh, yeah, I haven't had a chance to read the article, actually, so give me 20 seconds.
No, we can recap it. It was a wondrous journey of just carnage and destruction.
Basically, the Avatar beat up everyone except for Mortarion.
Fair. Though it seems like he nearly got him.
Yeah. Like, he barely managed to take out the Bane Blade.
I mean, to be fair, it's one of those where you kind of need to make the Avatar that much of a beat stick. If you're going to beef the model up that much and, prevent it from being Jobber to the Stars again, because it was definitely Jobber to the Stars, it kind of needs to be able to take any unnamed so-and-so, and someone like Marneus Calgar, it should definitely be able to take in that scenario, because Calgar, obviously, in the past, used to beat it, or used to get beaten by him in the books.
Oh, good point. Kind of keeping it all coherent.
Yeah,
for a change.
There was a long time where the Avatar was basically everybody's punching bag. Like Lorgar beat one up on his quest, and I think.
So all right, so okay, of the Primarchs, is Lorgar the base limit for getting, like, if you get your ass whipped by Lorgar, you're really not a top tier entity in the
as Primarchs go.
He's the weakest.
Yeah, Lorgar Ascended is a beat stick, but Lorgar Base is one of those. I think. Was it Kurz or Korax absolutely basically nearly murdered him? I think it was Korax nearly murdered him if it weren't for Kurz stepping in at Istvan 5.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
And in the rest of the Heresy, he basically just hid behind Angron, poking Angron with a metaphorical stick to make Angron go super murder. Otherwise, I think...
Though in fairness, there was that one time where Lorgar did beat up Fulgrim, but he cheated by kept saying Fulgrim's true name because Fulgrim was a demon at this point.
Yes, so that's not winning, that's cheating. Like, that's beyond heel tactics.
Yeah, I mean, it's war, guys, I mean, what's cheating in war? That's these guys, they have no compunction about this type of thing. You know how that works,
This is true. This is very true.
I don't know. Like I said, I'm just looking for the general consensus, because if Lorgar, I mean, that's the sad part, for all his potential and for all his zealousness, he gets no love as far as it comes to throwing hands with anybody.
It's in throwing hands. Yeah, there was a very interesting shift in Lorgar around the time we started the podcast, 2016, 2017, when Lorgar was the first Primarch novel to come out. And before that...
No, his wasn't
was
first.
he not? Oh, he was one of the first, wasn't he?
Gillen was first, Leon Russ was second, Magnus was third, Perturabo was fourth.
Okay, not that early then. But everyone sort of really hated Lorgar before that, or a lot of people did. And then around that point, Lorgar's origin story with Corferon was released, and a lot of people, I'm not going to say they liked Lorgar, but they could sort of sympathise with him a bit more, which is what I wonder is going to happen with the Mortarion novel that I know you've talked about earlier, whether that'll change people's perception of Morty.
I hope not. You know, sometimes you just need an unlikable, just trash bag of a person, you know? Morty has that potential. He really, really does. And I hope he fulfills
he is a walking trash bag, so, you know.
I just love what happened after he ascends demonhood. Like, he apparently started smelling so bad that like Chaos Spaceman was like vomiting even when the helmets were on, because like the smell was permeating through their helmet grills. It was like, oh god, dude, no.
Yeah, more. I mean, especially too, like, you know, for all the you want to say about the goodness of Nurgle. I mean, that was the call. Just make everybody rotten and smell terrible for all eternity. I mean, that can't be a good person. There can't be any good justification for that.
It's like, Nurgle loves you, but it's the kind of love that gives you herpes.
Like all of the herpes everywhere.
Interdimensional space herpes.
The very, very worst kind.
But very briefly going back to the Eldari, the Triumvirate of Iniad, each member is being made available as a separate model for the first time. So if you just want the Incarnate or Ivrain or the Vizarg, you can get them all separate.
It's been how long since that box came out? 7 years? 6? It was Gathering Storm 1, so...
About 5 years ago, wasn't it? 2017?
Yeah, it must have been, because 8th edition was 2018. No, 2017 was when 8th edition came out. It must have been either right at the end of 2016 or the start of 2017. Yeah, you're right.
That's the point. Did they ever make Cypher and Voldus available separately?
I don't actually know. Give me 30 seconds. Cypher.
I know they made Gilliman available separately, but I'm not too sure about Cypher or Voldus.
Hang on. I need to go Cypher model 40k because Cypher model clearly doesn't get everybody's intrigue. Games Workshop. Cypher is available independently for 20 Great British pounds.
Well, there you go then. And I'm trying to think what else is in there. Oh, you said that you wanted to discuss AOS.
It's not... well, okay, I could talk about the fact that they're making Turtles on Magmadroths Battle Line, but I'll come back to that. There was a bit of a to-do yesterday after the AOS MetaWatch article came out, because when the article was published, there was a bunch of credits at the bottom. They went through all this stuff and talked about all these lists and how it works. And at the bottom, there was credits to whoever it was who compiled the information. And one of them was AOS Shorts, who I follow on Twitter. And a few hours later, AOS Shorts is still credited, but a lot of the people who did the data compiling were then uncredited from the article.
Oh dear.
Yeah. So there was a bit of an uproar about that. AOS Shorts' name is in. I don't know if it ever came out, but all the other data compilers and things like that have no longer been credited from the article when they were in, and then they took them out. It's not that they just forgot to credit. They had them and took them out.
I imagine a few people are like tugging their clothes going, oh.
Yeah, I think AOS was like, I'm not going to work with GW again after that. Because of all the hard work that all those people do, like getting all the tournament data from around the world, compiling it, spreadsheeting it, creating analysis of that. That takes time. Data analysis is an entire person's job in many companies. And to then just not get credited or get credited and then have your accreditation removed, it stings.
I can imagine, yeah. Well, that was a bit of a downer.
Yeah, sorry. It's just one of those things that came up and I remember seeing it and I just didn't want to not mention it. But as I said, on the upside for AOS, they're making Magmadroths and Leviathan's battle line in certain armies, which is hilarious. So if you pay, what's their name? I think it's, what is it? Nortalath, that's the one. They're the one that's basically Idoneth Discworld. So they're an enclave of Idoneth that live on the back of a giant sea turtle type creature already. Their entire enclave is built on the back of it. They get the Doom Turtles as troops, essentially.
So you can have an entire army of giant killer turtles.
Yep. Or if you play a certain faction of Fire Slayers, which is the Orange Mohawk Dwarves, they can have their Magmadroths as battle line, the big salamander creatures.
No, I'm gonna have to go with turtles in this one. I mean,
I do too. I've got two of them.
Yeah. Giant Doom Turtles, it's more foreboding, you know?
Yeah,
Wait, they're running up on us with giant Doom Turtles? Yeah, all right.
Flying giant Doom Turtles, no less.
Wait, these turtles fly? All right, that's way too much stuff that don't make sense. I don't like what's going to happen here.
Yeah, Idoneth magic. They basically summon the sea, a fake ether sea out of using their magic, and their sea beasts that normally live underwater ride the currents of the ether sea, so they get flying sharks, flying eels, flying seahorses.
They just sound like billionaires. Like, you know, they import the ocean to the sky so they can ride their magic turtles in to kick everybody's ass.
Except, like, even worse than current Eldari, their souls are literally crumbling away, and they have to raid the surface to steal souls to keep themselves alive.
Man, and they just consume. Yeah, they're sea billionaires. That's I figured it out.
Especially. I'm not going to dive any further into that one, given that they've got a caste system and all of that. Nope. Going to leave that there.
The Drukhari tag. Yeah. There we go.
When even the Drukhari are like, get a lot of those guys.
Oh no, the Drukhari are far, far worse. The Idoneth do it for survival. The Drukhari do it for fun.
And survival as well.
A little bit, but mostly for fun.
They did keep, so Slanesh doesn't eat their souls.
It's for survival. They just make it look fun. Can we agree on that?
Fair enough.
The Drukhari just do it while wearing more BDSM gear.
Yeah, they're just more on the nose, you know, like these sea turtles. They try to look defined and regal, but really behind the scenes, just as filthy.
Anyway.
I think that pretty much covers all the major bits in the news this time round. Yeah,
I mean, it was a busy yet quiet kind of week. Total War Warhammer 3 did come out, for those of you who are video game oriented. I should point that out. It is now out and available if you want it. But no, I've had a quick flick through, and there's nothing that grabs me of, let's talk about this, or whatever. Because they did do an interview with, I think it's Jez Goodwin, about how they redesigned the Eldari, but also it's Eldari Yawn, sorry.
Oh, that reminds me, because they showed the concept art sketches for Jez Goodwin's original Dark Reaper design, which was, it's a classic piece of artwork in either case. But I feel like the helmet design, in regards to the new models, it doesn't work in the new models. It only really worked in the second edition models, I think. They were
a bit more chunky like that anyway, do you mean?
Well, and those, I mean, I don't know, the models around that time, they did have, like I said, they were a little bit more chunky. The proportions were a little bit more blown out, made it look a little bit more alien. So, yeah, I get where you're coming from there.
Mm. It's just like, with the new ones, the new Dark Reapers, I'm just like, imagining that, that emoticon, the side mouth, that kind of face. That's all I really see with the new ones.
I get where you're getting at. Oh, I did find one piece of news that may interest those of you who are event goers. The event exclusive miniatures for the year.
Oh yeah.
So for 40k and AOS, anyone who attends, so what are these? They're the event miniatures that if you go to any Warhammer event such as Adepticon, I guess, you can get access to these two miniatures and nowhere else. The first is a Primaris company champion.
Of course it's a Primaris.
But at least it's a decent looking one, I guess. And for Sigmar, rather than a Stormcast, Sigmar continues to buck the trend, and they released a new one for the Cruel Boys, as a variant of the Swamp Caller Shaman.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, a blind seer type character.
Yeah, I like that a lot. That looks great.
I would say with that Primaris Company champion, That'll make a very good proxy for the Emperor's Champion.
It would. And they actually do say that in the article. Yeah, they've used it as particularly school squad leader or even the Emperor's Champion. They say it in the article.
Oh, there you go then.
But no, it is a decent pose. It's not too over-designed or too busy, which certain Primaris models have become. But I think...
And yet he still has a tactical rock.
Yeah, there is a tactical rock. You are right, tactical rock.
But at least it's a subtle tactical
Agreed.
rock. It's not like with the new Malkin Ra model where he's literally doing a 7-10 split.
And he's literally doing a split as well.
Very dexterous. You gotta stay flexible on the battlefield.
Which is ironic considering Dark Reavers are meant to be the least flexible. Oh dear.
Ah, well.
But yeah, I think that's pretty much it news-wise.
Yeah.
Unless there's something else I've missed.
I had a quick look. I don't see anything that jumps out at me, no.
Fair enough. So, have any of you been reading anything interesting as of late?
I read Volpone Glory. But I suppose this is the bit I do need to ask of how much, before you dove into news, I don't know how much of a conversation you guys have had regarding sort of hobby. There's one question that's been nickling at me since Rem got you on the show, Joe, which is how do you hobby when you're on the road? I know we're not really talking about wrestling so much, but when you're on the road as much as you are, or were, or are, how do you actually manage to maintain a hobby? Because all those times on planes, I get the feeling your models would break everywhere you went.
Oh no, they do, and horribly. That's a summation we came to earlier. Essentially, it'd be impossible for us to travel, especially with model. I mean, they'd break right out the gate, just from the wear and tear and the tumbling of travel in general. So, for the most part, it was whenever I did get a little bit of free time on the weekends. Like I said, I have a couple small squads painted here and there. Right. And I had a couple friends in California who were massively into Warhammer. And, they'd lend me an army here or there to play a few games whenever I went over. But it's kind of next to impossible just because of obviously, everybody needs to make time. But I think it's just more... when I do get home off the road, my loved ones definitely take a priority, and for me to set up the whole painting booth and get everything going and get into it for the time that we really know we need to take to get into it, I think they would kill me because they get to see me as little as they can already.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That being said, if I do get a free weekend or something, or if I really, really need to unwind and chill out, I have no compunction about breaking out a small model and just, starting to layer on coats and just, it's more therapeutic, I think, than it is me trying to accomplish anything. And, every once in a while, I'm kind of pleasantly surprised. A lot of times it's a mess up and, throw that one in the stripper bin. But for the most part, I mean, that's pretty much kind of what it's become for me is that, when I do have a lot of free time and, I have a few hours that I need to fill, I pull out a model and just practice. And a lot of it right at this point is just kind of learning the finer points and kind of seeing little things here and there and just trying them out and seeing if they work. And, I mean, that's essentially the extent of the tabletop hobby. But as far as reading the lore and stuff, I think that's pretty much the focus of kind of what I like about Warhammer, because it's just, picking up a quick little ebook and reading it on your phone while you're in transit 4 or 5 hours, it makes the time fly.
Yeah, I know exactly, because that's exactly what I did with Volpone Glory. I was on a train and I read most of it on the way, a third of it on the way there, a third of it on the way back, and a third of it when I got home. So I do get that part of it about just using the literature. And it'll be interesting, I admit, one of those humble brags of how well a guest can keep up with Rem and I, because both of us, well, Rem's an encyclopedia, as I'm sure you may already know. Rem's a walking encyclopedia on this stuff. And I think I'm not tooting your horn too much there, am I, Rem, when I say that?
I mean, I'm not exactly one to brag. I don't call myself an expert because there are things I get wrong. I'll hold my hands up. So sometimes I get things wrong. But again, at the same time, I've been involved in this hobby since second edition. So some things you just end up like knowing innately if you've been involved that long. I'm sure it's the same with anyone who's been involved in the hobby for that long. You just know things innately because you just, but like reading the same codices like day in, day out, like to just a death. You can like recite some passages off the back of your hand.
Yeah, I've never quite got good enough at reciting the front, the spiel at the front of all the rulebooks and codices. Like, it is the 41st millennium for 10,000 years. The Emperor has been interned on his golden throne. Diddly diddly dee. The "You will not be missed" promo. I've never quite got that one memorized, but I bet you probably could.
Yeah, it's like singing a song you barely know. You just kind of know the chorus, and then you hum along through most of the song, and then once you hit the chorus, hey, right back up on it. That's the same with that preamble for Warhammer. I mean, I think everybody kind of, in the grim darkness of the far future, there's only, it's kind of ingrained into everybody's heads.
It's been on the front of like every book for so many years. I think if you didn't know it and you've been in the hobby for a while.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what it is. It's the Macarena. It's like, hey, Macarena.
Oh dear. Oh dear.
How's that for an old school reference?
Chuff.
So I mean, how are you enjoying these books?
I've generally taken responsibility for keeping across Dawn of Fire, while Remleiz keeps across Siege of Terror, which has been quite interesting. So Rem studies the past, and I study the present. But no,
in a sense, yeah.
Well, that's not fully true, but in terms of the big series of the day, sort of I read Dawn of Fire when it comes out, and Rem has his agents that gets him Siege of Terror early, so it works that way. Admittedly, I didn't really pick up the books. I think my first book was Hell's Reach when I was 15, which was about 10 years ago. And I really enjoyed that. And the Space Marine Battle series is what got me reading. And as I got a bit older, especially as I found I was reading the codices a lot more, because I wanted to learn the backstories of these characters, and particularly the one that really hooked me at the time was Wazdaka Gutsmech, and then Commander Farsight, which is why I play Tau and why my avatar on the podcast is a Tau.
You found the ultimate good guy, huh?
The nearest thing, yeah.
Yeah.
I was telling my students at Warhammer Club tonight, there are no good guys, but Farsight's as close as it gets. But no, I hit the books really hard, and I started doing lore videos, and so I realized I needed to be able to do it. And I read for pleasure for a long time. I always found it quite nice just to read, and the only challenge was putting the book down again. But no, I really get hooked into it. Although I admit the Sigmar literature often, I find Sigmar's lore a bit more enticing than 40K's, and I don't know if that's because it's fresher and I've read so much 40K that I can't be as invested. I'm always like analyzing it, and I just read the Sigmar fiction for fun, or what. But I always find the Sigmar fiction, like Court of the Blind King, Scourge of Fate, Realm Lords, there are so many books that are just like, yeah, instant recommend. And on the 40K side, that's true as well. But if I'm going to recommend a book to someone, then normally it's because it's doing something clever with the plot rather than being cool book, smashy thing happen.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you bring up a point though. Like a lot of those Space Marine battle books, and like the sad part is I've read so many, I can't like, all the titles are just now a mishmash of Hammer of Dawn and Destiny and
yeah.
But I mean, I think that's like we were talking earlier about just good like kind of jumping on points, and I think like some of those Space Marine battle books are really awesome, like jumping on points.
They really were.
Yeah, I mean, another good one too, like the Iron Warrior books, the initial ones.
Oh yeah,
I forget the names of them, but yeah, I think when you talk about tone, you want to get like Storm of Iron. Yes, if you want to talk about tone and understanding what the universe is about, like that's a great like pick up. Like I recommend to people, like I'll read that one if you really want to know what it's about. Like just the first scene of them just charging hundreds of innocent civilians as cannon fodder into the walls of Hydra Cordatus is just like, oh, crazy, like.
Yeah, it do be like that. I think if you wanted to go for that tone, Volpone Glory would be a really good one to pick up, and I will land on it in a minute. Yeah, I think my recommended book that I would say start here, well, as you said, Space Marine Battles, and also the Space Marine Conquest books from 8th edition, if you wanted to get a bit more caught up on modern stuff. I struggle to recommend Dawn of Fire as a launching off point because Avenging Sun, the first book, I don't know if you've read it, it jumps around perspectives like so fast that trying to keep all the plot plates spinning. I know Rem had the same critique of how much it tries to spin so many stories at once and then miraculously converge them at the end. They've got better at it since the first one. The first one, it feels a bit confused, and you need a lot of prior knowledge going in to actually understand it in full. Or at least I found that way anyway.
Yeah, which I think can be an issue with a few books, especially like Horus Heresy books. It's hard for me to like tell people, hey, jump on with the Horus Heresy. That's where you want to start, because there's just so much you need almost a primer just to get into that.
I think you could get away with the first 5, Horus Rising, False Gods, Galaxy in Flames, Flight of the Eisenstein, and Fulgrim. I want to say Isfan, but I knew I was wrong. I think when you get to that point, those 5 follow quite a nice linear progression of this is the setup. And at that point, it goes completely overboard and all over the place. And then we get, what is it, Descent of Angels and Rem Cries.
Yeah.
Oh, God, that book was a chore to get through. I'm sorry, but it was.
I know.
Funny enough, a good series to actually get into if you're like not wanting to be completely overwhelmed and just want something focused on just one setting. So what's surprising is actually the Cal Jericho books.
I love the Necromunda stuff. You know what I really liked was, I think they were in the Infernos, the Redeemer comics, where
oh yes,
so I mean that's I think that's like kind of like one of those unsung Warhammer characters that probably needs a bigger spotlight. Like, I don't know why, all those comics cracked me up, and they're just in their ridiculousness, and yeah.
With the giant zombie rat the size of Godzilla.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just all just the whole ridiculousness of the Cawdor gang, and and the Cal Jericho books. I mean, I'm a big Necromunda fan. I think it's a cool cyberpunky type of take on 40K. And
what house or gang would you play if you had the time?
Ooh, I want to say Delac, but I think I'd go with Cawdor, just because. I mean, I heard about their whole little kind of miracle system, which I think is also very funny. So I think I would go with that.
Fair.
Yeah. Are you looking forward to the Ash Wastes expansion coming out?
Basically, Necromunda meets Gorka Morka.
I mean, I won't say no.
This is fair.
That is a perfectly fair response. Yes. Also, I absolutely loved the most recent Cal Jericho, but where he forms like the bounty hunting gang, where he's got like, the Squat and the Beast Man, and his wife and the mutant with the scabs and all that, and they all just form like a little bounty hunting group. Such a fun story, that.
I haven't picked that up yet. No,
Sinner's Bounty, it's called. So.
Yeah, I need to get up a little bit more on the Cal Jericho stuff. I've read 2 of the initial, I think the first 2 books, and people have said that they're pretty good. So I'll dive in. and a lot of the old like Hammer and Bolter supplements. I think was my first introduction.
Oh yeah,
before my time. I don't think I was born.
The old Warhammer Monthly comics as well.
Yeah. I mean, really, I think that was an introduction to a lot of. I think Warhammer Fantasy was. I think I had no knowledge of it, and I think the Hammer and Bolters. That's where I started to initially read them, and I think Necromunda. I wouldn't have had any idea, if it wasn't for those like just the little Cal Jericho short stories or Underhive short stories that they would have.
Yeah, so I remember. This was like all the way back in the 2nd edition. Issue of White Dwarf, it came free with issue 0 of Warhammer Monthly, and it only had like one actual full-on comic strip in it, and there was one called The Bridge, and it was basically Orcs versus Chaos Space Marines. They'll find control over this bridge, and at the end of it, it's like, the bridge is ours, and no, it's ours, and the camera just pans out, and the bridge has been completely destroyed.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Appropriate.
But yeah, Tak, tell us about Volpone Glory.
It was depressing in a really in a good 40k way.
Well, like 15 hours was.
Kinda. I mean, I've not read 15 hours, so I can't say for sure. But it's a Sabbat Worlds book, a Sabbat Crusade, but you don't need to know anything about the Sabbat Worlds to actually jump on, because I don't. And you follow this regiment, the Volpone Blue Bloods, who are very much, Blue Bloods, it's in the name, where only those born to a noble house may carry a gun type thing. So all the guards.
I think I've actually read this, but okay, yes, continue.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So all the nobles join the guard, and their serfs are their runners and servants and things like that. And it's very much a 2-class system. And basically, if you're 14th generation, then you might be higher up the rankings than who's 4th generation or whatever. That's the background to the regiment. And the book opens with them losing badly, falling back from this town and this gun. They call it God Spear, I think. Which is an absolutely titanic macro cannon type deal. And they lose it to the traitors. I forget exactly which variation it was. And it sort of deals with how they rebuild and deal with their own internal politics, the conflicts with the locals and the other Imperial regiments on world, who all see them as aloof and above everybody, because they are, and how they eventually go on to win. And they do win in the end. They take back the gun, and then it blows itself up because the traitors sabotaged it. So well done. But they do eventually get their victory of sorts, and it follows a few different people. There's a Rough Rider who's a biker, so Rough Rider bikers from another regiment. I think they start as a corporal and end as a general by the end of the book, as well as a few other characters. And it is grim all the time. Like, first chapter, we're losing, we're getting massacred. Second chapter, regimental officers being told he's being shipped off world, commits ritual suicide as a result. It opens dark and it never gets better. You have stormtroopers indoctrinated into suicide bombers. You have Traitor Astartes demolishing platoons at a time. There was a Dark Apostle showed up at one point and just went demolishing until he got cawed out by a melter gun. They bring the gun to the walls of the settlement that they're besieging, and it immediately sabotages and blows up and wipes out half the regiment. They have to trek through swampland against, like, unclassified but exceptionally powerful psychers who wipe out half the armored column in one go. And they just keep getting battered, but they just keep going. And yeah, like we were saying about tone, it's dark, it's depressing, and there is no hope at all, but they keep going regardless, and eventually they eke something out. It has been a week or so since I've read it, so I don't remember every single plot detail, but yeah, if you want to know what the true reality of being in the Guard is like, and how the chain of command works and doesn't work, and how the fractious nature of the Imperium is, then yeah, you can read this and you'll get the idea. And the final twist is that the Lord Commissar, who's brought in these Tempestors and has been with them for ages, is essentially not a traitor in the most literal sense, but has been bumping off some members of the Volpone who found out too much about this traitor weapon. And it's not even a weapon, it's a room where you get strapped into a crucifix type thing. Your eyes are pinned open, you have to stare at this ceiling, and it completely breaks your mind.
So Clockwork Orange.
I guess maybe that's what they were going for. I haven't watched or seen Clockwork Orange, so it didn't really land if that's what they were going for.
You've not seen Clockwork Orange?
No, I have better things to do with my time. Controversial, I know, but there you go, I said it. But yeah, it's designed as this sort of twisting, mind-breaking thing. And it isn't just a regular ceiling, it is like some sort of warpy thingy. But no, it was really good for what it was, but would I recommend it if you want a good, super, yay, Imperium smash battle book? No. It's dark, it's heavy, it's depressing, but it's also really well written, and I couldn't put it down. So, enough said, I guess.
Well, to fill in a little bit more back, because I'm actually, like, the Sabbath World Crusade. That's all Gaunt Ghost stuff, and
Yeah, Ghost.
It's actually I would actually say that probably Gaunt Ghost is my favorite series at this point.
That is more than fair.
Yeah, having gone through them and all, and so like it's kind of an added bonus that the Volpone are going through all this for like the avid, Ghost reader, because essentially if you don't know, like they're kind of the scumbag regiment that treats our lovely hometown regiment like dirt any chance they get. And it, I don't know, I guess I'm not spoiling stuff at this point, but
no, you're fine.
Essentially, they produced the one of the greatest traitors in the Sabbath World Crusade, and they tried, I think at some point they tried to kill the ghosts with an artillery strike while they're going above enemy line, all kinds of horrible stuff, just because they're scumbags. So I think this story, when you read through it, it's kind of like for the ghost reader, it's not, it's like obviously you filmed the grim darkness of the whole thing, but seeing the Volpone get it is not a bad thing. No, it's kind of a guilty pleasure for that reader.
Yeah, and it's also quite nice that the world they're basically fighting for is a bit of a backwater agri world. Like, it'd be nice to have it,
which is so beneath them. Yeah, that's there's all kinds of rife sarcasm riddled through kind of the greater meta of the story. So yeah, it's a fun read.
Good. Have you following Sabbat? Have you read the Iron Snakes books?
Yeah, I have the Abnett books, right?
I think so. I haven't actually had a chance to read them. So
no, I think there were some newer. I read the original Abnett series. I don't know if I read the newer Iron Snakes books.
Yeah, the Erdish ones. They're by Matthew Farah.
I have not read those yet.
Right.
The first one was called The Serpent and the Saint, which is actually coming out in paperback in March. So,
good timing. Oh, the Erdesh stuff. I couldn't remember the subtitle. Erdesh. There we go.
I mean, having the Squad of Iron Snakes and Saint Sabbat in one book, could be interesting.
Could be. Like I said, of the Saint Sabbat character, I want to see kind of if it kind of shows her in her full glorious light, I think it'll be kind of interesting.
Yeah.
So have you been reading anything as of late, Joe, aside from Volpone Glory?
So I've been rereading Ravnor because
it's good.
I'll tell you what happened. I started to get into the Banquin trilogy, and somewhere along the line, I just didn't catch the vibe that this was a clone. Like in the beginning of the book, I just really didn't really get it. So I found myself going back and kind of rereading through everything because it'd been so much time since I'd read in between books, since I had really kind of needed a refresher. So I mean, as of yet, I've been kind of re-going through the Ravnor series, reading that. But of the newer stuff that I've read, I just read the orc, the newest orc book that they had. Mainly out of curiosity. I'm trying to get the name here. I'm actually looking at my app right now. Oh, the Brutal Cunning book.
Oh yeah.
And just because to me it is a brave endeavor to do a whole entire orc book, and obviously they kind of flip back and forth between the Mechanicus and the orc, which I liked. I did like the seeing the parallel of the conflict on both sides, and the hyperlogical Mechanicus and the very illogical orc kind of clashing and in the struggle. So it was fun. It was a fun book, and I thought for an orc book, which can get a little bit hokey and goofy, especially when it comes to dialogue, they surprisingly did a pretty good job. And I enjoyed it. It was a quick read, and I enjoyed it.
Good.
I'll tell you what, you will absolutely love the Gazgold book when that comes out.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Because I got the limited edition, which came out like last year, and I read through that, and it was absolutely brilliant. Like, most of the story is told from the perspective, from the Orcoid perspective, but you get some scene-setting scenes, which is done through an interrogation of an Inquisitor interrogating Makari the Grot. So that's basically your framing device.
Yeah, and we had Nick Crowley on the show as well, didn't we, to talk about it afterwards?
Yeah. Once it comes out, I do highly recommend you get it. You will enjoy it, I reckon. No,
I'm looking forward to it. Like, orcs are kind of the fun read in the 40K universe. So I enjoy checking out a good either. Like, I really like orc short stories. I think that it's the best containment of kind of the situations they have and they get into. But like I said, when you pull off a whole book, I'm always looking for trying it out.
Agreed. What about you, Rem?
I started going through Twice Dead King Reign. I've not finished it yet. I'm about a third of the way through so far.
Okay. Spoiler room?
How long ago? Yeah, that book didn't come out that long ago.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Twice Dead King Ruin was a while-ish ago. We've just finished talking about that, and Reign then came out, like, last month before? It's certainly not been out that long, so you could consider it spoilers, but that we can decide that in the edit.
Yeah, I mean, I can start talking for it shortly. I mean, Joe, do you have time for me to go over this, or do you need to head off now? If you need to leave, that's totally fine.
Okay, cool. Yeah, actually, I do. I got another appointment here coming up, but
that's more than fair.
Hey,
well, thank you very much for joining us. We really do appreciate it. And Rem may not have said it. You are basically his dream guest, so you've basically made Rem's dreams come true.
Awesome. No, I had a good time, guys. Appreciate it. Yeah, all the best, and yeah, hopefully, see you down the line.
Yeah, take care.
Yeah, take care.
Have a good evening. Take care. Right, so in regards to the spoiler room, yeah, okay. So if you want to skip spoilers for Twice Dead King, just click the link in the video description below.
Yeah.
And yeah, so basically, we're carrying on from the end of Twice Dead King Ruin.
Which was, if I remind myself, Imperium invasion, Crown World lost, Altix evacuating, and has just become Pharaon, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
Oh, and they did a Holdo maneuver.
Yes. Basically, we cut to Altix, his ship here is basically like traveling through the void, and as they've been traveling through the void, he's been meeting up with other survivors of his dynasty from like various other worlds. They've basically all come together to form a little flotilla who's basically escaping from the Imperium at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But as it turns out, the engines on his flagship are slowly dying, and the Imperium is starting to catch up. Okay,
so basically it's The Last Jedi, but backwards. We did the Holdo maneuver first, and now and now they're being chased down by a massively superior fleet. Oh, come on!
Kind of, yeah. But as they're making their way through, they come into contact with a Necron heavy cruiser, and ultimately she's like, "We have a heavy cruiser?" It's like, "No, that's not from our dynasty. That's from our rival dynasty, the Ogbedek, I think that's what they're called."
Oh no.
And on board is the Crown Prince of that dynasty, and it's like, oh god. Who's a very eccentric character, to put it mildly.
They're a Necron.
A very eccentric Necron.
Is there anything else?
Yeah, basically, Altix starts to think that there's a traitor within his fleet who's basically been telling the Imperium where they are and how they've been able to keep tracking them down. He's not too sure who it is at first, but it's like a long ongoing suspicion. So, because his engines are fucked, the Crown Prince of the Ogbedek basically says like, "Oh, I'll send you one of my cryptex to have a look at it, because you don't have much in the way of engineering cryptex, and my dynasty is famed for its engineering capabilities." And it's like, "Oh, yes, how generous of you. Could you please send us one of your cryptex?" Altix is basically thinking in a very sarcastic way, and Ogbedek's like, "Oh, don't worry, I've already sent them aboard your ship." "You what?" Yeah, this cryptex is already in the engine room with all of Altix's dynasty's cryptex basically saying like, "Why are you here? You can't do this. No. Kind of thing.
Dear, oh dear.
And it's like, "You have a leak." "What do you mean I have a leak?" You're leaking fuel." "Well, can you plug the leak?" "No." "What do you mean no? You need to do something else." It's like, it's a very curt cryptex, like, oh, for God's sake kind of thing. The Imperium shows up again. Basically had a little skirmish. And basically, in order for Altix's flagship to be able to make, jump to light speed again, or to FTL speed or whatever, he basically needs to, like, drain the energy from nearby ships to basically, act as a fuel reserve. And there's one ship that has a rival of his on it, not from the same dynasty, mind, a rival.
Mm-hmm.
A Nemesaur who's basically, effectively who's his childhood bully. She's basically starts being really insubordinate to him, because even though he's the king, or the dynast, or whatever it is, she's, basically being very insubordinate, and Altix starts thinking she's got to do something so she can try and take over the dynasty.
Mm-hmm.
even though the Crown Prince of the Oberdale is basically saying, like, watch your tone, he is your king, you should respect him. And which he says silently to Ultix, like, you should really keep your people in line, And as they're trying to make their way to this one particular planet, for effectively for Sanctuary, as it were, no, it wasn't Sanctuary, no. One of Ultix's members of Ultix's court basically suggests, like, oh, I know how we can get past the Imperium. Why don't we use this giant trebuchet? What? Oh, yeah. The Maynard dynasty had a giant trebuchet hidden on a planet nearby. Oh, yes, a trebuchet used to design to launch asteroids at ships. What good's that going to do against, a huge Imperial fleet? Well, I'm not saying we use it against them. I say we use it on us. What do you mean? We be the ammo. Have the trebuchet launch us to a faster than light speed. And Altus is like, well, I've heard stupider ideas. Fine, we'll try and go. No one else is coming up with a better idea, so we might as well go for this one.
Fair, I guess.
As they're trying to get to this world, the Imperium attack again. Altus's rival, his bully ship, basically tries to do a maneuver to try and take out this massive Imperial flagship. And Altus realizes she's doing this against my orders. She's basically attempting a coup. No, wait, she must be the traitor. So what he does, he has his ship seize hers in like a big tractor beam type thing, and starts draining all of the energy from it to basically try and fuel his ship's engines. It's like, oh, I'm not going to tolerate your insubordination bullshit anymore. So, yeah, you and your ship can die in service to your king. Bye-bye.
I'm going to take a stab in the dark ahead of time that this person is not going to be the leak. They're just going to be a jackass that is going to pay for it dearly, and Ultix is going to pay for it down the line.
Basically what happens, she teleports aboard his flagship, and the two of them start having a fight.
Oh, for goodness sake.
Yes, while their fleet is being attacked by the Imperium, they decide to have a fight. The thing is, though, remember, most of Ultix's upgrades were removed from his body. She is physically larger, stronger, faster, with faster reflexes, and she doesn't feel pain.
Oh dear. This is not going to end well.
No. He's barely able to keep up with her, and as she lands a few strikes on him, he realizes that his pain receptors are still active. Then he realizes, I can use this against her. So what happens, she stabs him, he basically grabs her sword arm, pulls the sword all the way through him, and then discharges all of his pain into her, so she would basically feel effectively some kind of electromagnetic backlash. Basically, she's basically feeling all of his pain at once.
Ow.
Which disorients her. It's only disorients her for a short time, though, so she recovers slightly quickly. Then he remembers some words that his rival Neogodex said, because he hadn't dyed his metal gold yet, as he should, because he's a king. Yet his bully has gold running through the centre of her body, like a big stripe.
So I'm assuming we're going for a drain and repaint tactic?
Kind of. He basically thinks to Obedex's words, saying oh, you need to strip her of her gold. And that's exactly what it does. He basically uses his inbuilt powers to pull the gold from her body, which effectively bisects her.
Ow.
Because the gold was going straight through the centre of her body, so...
Fatality.
Pretty much. And then he ends up practically destroying her remains. Right, yeah, I'm going to go melt down that, that Imperial Prow Eagle thing and just coat my body in it because it was gold, so fuck it.
Fair enough.
But he still has the scars he had added on. So even though he's now got a golden body, he still has the scars from his old body because he has them re-added.
Right, okay.
Because his view is my dynasty is scarred, therefore I shall remain scarred.
I've heard worse justifications.
It's a very symbolic gesture, yeah.
Agreed.
So they get to the world with the trebuchet, and he sends this death mark to basically capture it, because the Mechanicus are trying to plunder it at the same time. They basically, it's like an art Mechanicus making its way to the world with the trebuchet as the battle's going on.
Oh dear.
So he sends a death mark and a bunch, and his pet Cryptex, Canoptex, sorry, after them. Yeah, lots of sounds of horrible massacres, Tech Priest being devoured from the ankles up by swarms of scarabs, that kind of thing.
Yep, right, don't need more than that, thank you.
Yeah. there's this one Imperial ship that's causing immense trouble. Now, its armor's too thick. It's got too powerful shields. Like, they can't board it because the shields are up. They can't just send boarding parties on. So the Deathmark suggests a plan, and he sends up a giant Scoloped canoptech, which was used for mining asteroids. Basically, think a ship-sized canoptech tombstalker, effectively, that starts wrapping itself around this Imperial ship, starts chewing its way through this Imperial ship.
Ouch.
And it's like, alright, who are we going to use to launch the boarding actions? Fuck it, send the destroyers.
I mean, they're insane, so you may as well use them.
He has an entire ship full of, an entire Necron ship filled with nothing but destroyers. And he sends that to board. The term overkill comes to mind.
Yeah.
Like, literally, only one destroyer has, like, any, cognitive ability left to be reasoned with. So it's like, Yenneck, his admiral, basically says, you do realise that once you unleash the destroyers, you will not be getting them back. Well, it's either that or we lose the ship. Fair enough.
Go.
Launch them. And that's basically where I am so far.
Cool. That definitely sets us on an interesting trajectory. I admit I'm feeling a lot of Star Wars The Last Jedi vibes about a lot of it. Like, the whole thing, like, oh, we've done a lightspeed maneuver that rips ships apart, and also we've then got away, but they're chasing us down, they're somehow able to follow us, and we're leaking fuel, so we're going to run out of fuel, so we're draining smaller ships to keep ourselves going, and forgive me, it's a bit on the nose, but...
Just a tad, but
well,
it's enjoyable so far. So
yeah, as long as it's a good read and it has a satisfying payoff, then I'm fine with that.
That's right. I'm looking forward to see where the story's going to go from here.
Because obviously the book's called Reign, so either this is the reign of Ultix the Scarred, a very short reign and the last of his line, or this is how he will rise to become king, a true king in more than name, and thus get his territory back without inquires beating the Imperium, which his dynasty doesn't seem equipped to do. So I'm interested to see how they do it.
Right, is it time for some questions, I think?
I think so, and as we've slightly tweaked the upload schedule due to my lateness arriving, I thought it would make sense. So you've got the questions, I think.
I do, yes. Right, so let's start with an interesting one.
Always good.
Could the Imperium use Blackstone like those from the Pillars of Cadia to nullify the Warp Rift on Terra?
Probably.
The question is, though, how do you have them dealing with, the Emperor's immense psychic presence?
Yeah, because there's always a risk that if you put in a nullifier around the Terran Rift, you end up slightly nullifying the Emperor a little bit, and that then affects the Astronomicon and everything else, which would be, especially in the current state of the Imperium, a big problem.
One thing that's interesting, because this reminds me of going back to Carrion Throne. That scene where basically, the Custodians and the Inquisitor are chasing this, Drukhari homunculus who's trying to make his way in towards the Eternity Gate.
Mm-hmm.
They're in the room that has the Eternity Gate in it, that a big procession with all the banners and all that lining up by it. And as the Inquisitor enters that massive chamber, even though the Emperor's way behind the Eternity Gate itself, which is sealed, he can feel the immense psychic power of the Emperor all the way from out there.
Yeah,
that shows how powerful the Emperor actually is. Like, he can feel it from effectively halfway across the fucking town.
Yeah, and this isn't just any town. That's saying something. That they're locked in a chair, a long way behind a locked gate that is immense, all the way down a massive pilgrimage route, and from there, that power is, I'm sure it's not overwhelming, but it's at least notable. Yeah, that's a lot.
Oh, absolutely.
And you really don't want to disrupt it at all.
No, to put it mildly.
I mean, the other option is, instead of using Blackstone to nullify the Warp Rift, use it to boost the Emperor.
Yeah, because remember, Blackstone can be polarized in two different ways, yeah.
Yeah, nullifier or booster. Obviously, that runs the risk of amplifying the Rift to the point of beyond control. But you could use it as a warp amplifier for the Emperor's power and the Golden Throne, potentially, but that would be heresy because you'd be modifying the Golden Throne.
What you could potentially do You could use it to boost the Emperor's power so the Emperor could close the warp rift.
Yeah, possible, which begs the question, why hasn't the Emperor been able to close a warp rift? If it takes like a few Grey Knights to shut it, how has the Emperor not been able to shut it?
Because Magnus was such a colossal fuck-up. He made one that's so big the Emperor's just doing all he can to stop it from enveloping terror.
Valid point.
He's stopping it from growing, essentially. The warp rift's there, and it's only there because it hasn't grown so big to envelop terror.
Fair point, yeah. I remember after Magnus' incident, the Emperor was on the Golden Throne a lot more.
Why or how did Bjorn fare better against Magnus during the Battle of the Fang than Guilliman did on Luna?
2 reasons, I suspect. 1, Bjorn is on home turf, and
a walking tank.
And 2, Bjorn was fresh, relatively speaking. Bear in mind, Guilliman has been running from across...
Oh yeah, it was just after he escaped from the Red Corsairs, wasn't it?
Yeah, so Guilliman has gone on...
And Scarbrand.
Yeah, so the Terran Crusade is at its end. Guilliman has been on Crusade, has been captured by Kairos Fateweaver and the Red Corsairs, and has been running ever since he was broken out by Cypher and co. Guilliman's...
And had to fight Scarbrand at the same time.
Oh, and that. Guilliman's knackered. Also, let's bear in mind, Guilliman only woke up a few weeks prior. I know that doesn't really apply to Bjorn, but Bjorn has fought Magnus before, or at least he's conceptually aware.
At this point, Bjorn just got out of bed, so I'm up, I'm ready for bed, I'm going to beat the shit out of you.
Yeah, I'm not. Let's be fair here. Bjorn does not beat Magnus in the Battle of the Fang. He doesn't. Also worth bearing in mind, the Battle of the Fang happened 9,000 years earlier, so Magnus will have only grown stronger in the 9,000 years since.
And plus, back then as well, Bjorn was also not in a dreadnought for that long, so he's still, was much more sprightly back then than what he is today.
Yeah, sprightly, knowledgeable, fresh.
Sprightly by dreadnought standards.
Yeah, and the wounds of being abandoned by Russ and the betrayal of Magnus will still have been relatively fresh.
Mind, yeah.
That's not to say Guilliman's a jobber compared to Bjorn. Guilliman would absolutely take Bjorn in a 1v1, but Guilliman was on the run, was under-equipped, and was basically fighting Magnus in his prime, where Magnus had already scoured Fenris.
Question for Tactica. Would you do more Italian accent voices, please?
No.
Had to be asked.
I knew you'd leave it in the bloody edit.
I did say I was going to leave it.
I know, but still, should know better than to trust you with anything.
Blame the arena, it's her fault.
Sure.
Right, who has the biggest arrogant jerk of them all? The High Elves / Lumineth Realm Lords with Teclis, or the Imperium with the Primarchs?
Lumineth. Like, the Imperium are jackasses, don't get me wrong, but they're not that high and mighty. They're xenophobic, and they're horrible, and they are human supremacists, don't get me wrong. But the Lumineth don't just kill everything because they think it's beneath them. They put up with and almost denigrate on a daily basis the humans of Settlers Gain, because they... Is it more aloof to tolerate and keep as almost a secondary look down on race, or to just purge everything you see? Like, you can go around and obviously one is more blatantly evil than the other, but in terms of high mighty looking down on others, denigrating and ruling over is arguably worse than just wiping out. Maybe, debatably.
Fair enough. Okay, next question. It's stated in the new Custodian codex that the Custodians have spies in every chapter they deem to be a threat to the Imperium, which includes the Ultramarines, but not the Dark Angels and Blood Angels. Why is that?
Well, the Ultramarines bit is easy. They don't trust Guilliman.
Yeah, that's literally the reason, yeah.
And we talked about that last episode with Colquan and the stuff, how they're running scenarios on how to kill Guilliman if they have to. They don't trust him at all.
Dark Angel. Reason that they don't for the Dark Angels is probably because, like, the High Lords are basically saying, hey, we're going to turn a blind eye to Dark Angels leading the building just so we have a counter to Guilliman.
Yeah, there's an argument of countering Guilliman. Absolutely. Oh.
And Blood Angels, they probably just say, well, the Blood Angels fought in the defense of Terror, so yeah, they're good for us.
Yeah, the only reason that you'd put a Custodian to monitor the Blood Angels is their gene seed defect and whether they were going to be lost to the rage or the thirst. But at the same time, it's worth bearing in mind that the Custodes, well, who would they embed? Because bear in mind, the Blood Angels were visited by the Indomitus Crusade, which then left after Dante was appointed Warden of Imperium Nihilus. I don't believe a Custodian contingent was left behind as part of that. I don't think anybody was left behind aside from the Primaris. So
I would assume as far as the Custodians go, like, pretty much anything that the Imperial Fist, White Scars, and Blood Angels do get a free pass just because of, Siege of Terror.
I don't think free pass, but...
comparatively speaking.
Yeah, they'll still be monitored, because we're not just going to turn a blind eye to the Imperial Fist saying, death to the false emperor. But I think in terms of, do they trust them a bit more? Yeah, probably, I would think so.
Yeah. They can probably say, the loyalty of these three is not in doubt because they stood, by the Emperor on Terra during Heresy. Where was everyone else?
Yeah, Gilliman stayed behind to make sure Sanguinius wasn't late.
No, but the Custodians may not know that, or they'll just say, how convenient.
Yes, agreed.
Right. Would you be willing to repeat Shadowversity's experiment and eat like a hobbit for a day?
No. Sorry.
It depends what's on the menu.
Nah, I'm good.
I mean, having two, full English fry-ups, that's going to be a bit much for anyone. Two in a row.
Agreed.
How would you feel if Black Library redeemed the Traitor Primarchs and elevated Khaine, Typhus, Lucius, and Ahriman to demon princes, especially if Angron was restored to how he should have been as an empath, seeing Khaine as his greatest son as a demon prince? I would personally feel it would be very convoluted.
Yeah, sorry, my brain's trying to wrap itself round that.
Basically, the Traitor Primarchs were redeemed and all the named Chaos Space Marine characters got put into demon princes instead.
No. That's it. The Legion fell, but the Primarch was redeemed and the Legion is still traitor, and no, sorry, you've lost me. It's how on earth do you redeem the Traitor Primarchs anyway? You don't.
I mean, the closest thing we would ever have to that really was with Magnus during the Siege of Terror. We can redeem you, Magnus, but your entire Legion's got to die first.
Yeah, literally, we had this.
That's the closest you're going to get.
Yeah, we literally had that conversation about redemption versus the cost of that redemption before, and the Traitor Primarchs are either too attached to their legions or too attached to their gods to ever be turned. Would I be against seeing Khaine, Typhus, Lucius, and Ahriman as demon princes? No. Especially Typhus, given he is Mortarian's favoured. Nurgle's favoured, let's be fair here. But arguably, Mortarion and the Traitor Primarchs are more useful as agents in the Great Game, whereas the mortals, because they're mortal, are more interested in what's going on in reality. That was something that I remember they said about the Demon Primarchs, especially people like Mortarion and Fulgrim, is that as time went on, because they were demonic, they got more and more immersed in the Great Game rather than in what they had been doing or what they were focused on in the death of the Imperium.
Fair enough. Next question. Could an Age of Strife happen to the Tau?
Let's put a definition of what an Age of Strife is.
Basically their own equivalent to the Age of Strife that happened to humanity.
Which was what? Psychic awakening and then mass rebellions and warp storms as a result?
I would assume basically all of the Tau worlds becoming isolated and separated from one another kind of thing.
Yes. The Tau rely on mundane communication. They do not have psychers. If you take out their communication ducts, they cannot communicate.
At the same time, they also don't really rely on the warp for travel, so things like warp zones won't really affect them as much as they would for humanity, because humanity was more reliant on the warp.
But you can't cross a warp storm in real space either.
No, but at the same time, you can have warp storms that only are active in the warp and real space can be calm. Because
yeah, true.
Remember, for extended journeys, what do the Tau do? They put most of their crew in cryostasis.
They do, and they do now have the slipstream that allows them to skim rather than enter the warp. But they relied on other forms of accelerators, the Horizon Accelerator into the ZFR for a long time. So, yes, they could travel through conventional space. An Age of Strife for the Tau would not happen naturally. I think that's the way to put it. It can happen, but not naturally.
I imagine that if it could happen, it won't affect them as badly as it did for humanity.
Yeah, because the Tau aren't as widespread to begin with.
Nor as psychic.
They're not psychic, and as a species, they're quite unified of purpose. So you'd have to have some sort of invading force that blocked them off from each other in both a warp and real space sense, and cut off their communications arrays in deep space. It would have to, rely on a third party, malevolent or ignorant, just cutting them off from one another. It wouldn't happen naturally like I think it did to humanity. You got so spread out, relying on unreliable warp-based technology and communication. Fun thought experiment, though, because obviously, if you cut all the ethereals off from one another, how do they evolve without each other to depend on?
That is actually a very interesting point, yeah.
Because one ethereal's interpretation of the great good is going to be different to another's, ever so slightly. They're unified of purpose, but everyone reads the rulebook ever so slightly differently. And seeing those different philosophies evolve in different ways, and those different war philosophies evolve in different ways, could be quite interesting.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, God, sorry. It's been a very long day and I can't stop yawning.
No, it's totally fine, mate. Right, how are we doing for time? I reckon we've got time for one more, yeah?
Yeah, you tell me, because I joined late, so I couldn't quite tell how long you guys were recording before I jumped in.
I'd say we've got time for one more.
Okay.
Let me find a decent one. Try and find one that isn't extremely long or extremely silly.
I can do extremely long, I don't mind.
Would any of the Adeptus Astartes organs be theoretically viable in a mortal human, but downsized?
I mean, the first implants do go put into normal humans in order to stimulate the transformation.
I think what they might be asking is, like, can you just have a normal human who's just boosted with one organ, like just give a regular human the Betcher's gland, for example?
No, because each of them rely on each other. There are certain organs that rely on another organ working with it to function. Like, I think there's one in particular that is absolutely fundamental and must be in place for like 5 others to work. I can't remember its name off the top of my head, but there are certain organs and implants that do not work without other implants being present first.
Correct, yeah.
But some of the early ones, the ones that start stimulating muscle growth or the one like that,
or bone growth, yeah.
Yeah, those ones could be used, but only up to a certain point. Like if you wanted to just implement a Biscopia or a Laraman's organ, no. If you want to put the first couple in, maybe.
I think it's also worth remembering that biological augmentation does exist outside of the Astartes. I mean, if you look at like Imperial assassins, for example, a lot of them undergo biological augmentation that is completely separate from that of the Astartes.
This is true, and the Custodians, of course, are gene-crafted in their own unique way.
It's magic. As far as Custodians are concerned, it's magic.
I mean, yes, it is magic, but it means that there are ways to modify humanity that don't require Space Marine implants, is what I was trying to say.
Right, so on that note, I think we should call it there. So, thank you very much to everyone who joined for this episode. We hope you enjoyed it. And we want to give another thank you to Samoa Joe, who joined us this episode. Shame he had to leave early, but, you know, everyone's busy these days. So.
Have you stopped fanboying yet?
No.
Yeah, I mean, you should see the conversation logs when Rem messaged me. He's like, dude, we got Joe. We got Joe. Holy, we got Joe. And it was just like, yeah, Rem was slightly exploding. But no.
I mean, yes, but
it is more than fair. And yeah, as much as I didn't get to speak to him for all that long, thank you very much to Joe for joining us. And hopefully we'll speak again another day, or we'll get other people from the world of wrestling. Maybe, touch wood, one day we'll get Shayna Baszler, but I doubt it. Who knows?
Who knows? Well, you never know these days, so until next time, everyone, thank you very much again, and this has been Remleiz from 40k Theories.
And this has been Tactica Imperialis, and that was Samoa Joe.
And we'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.